Good morning and welcome to Bolton. I'm Joyce Stilley, the Administrative Officer for the Town of Bolton, and this is a live show done the first and the third Tuesdays of each month from 10:30 to 11 a.m. The show is rebroadcast live at the same time on the second and fourth Tuesdays. The show is a continuing effort to promote open communications within the community. And if you have any event that's coming up or you have an organization you'd like to see information get out about it, or just have a question as to how town government operates, please contact me at the town hall and we will try to get a show on the air that covers that topic. As we go through the year, we cover a lot of different topics, and this time of year we're starting to really move into the budget season. And so my guest today is First Selectman Sandy Pierock. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, Joyce, for having me again.
And we did a show on this last year, but capital is a big part of the town and the town's needs on a yearly basis, and our needs always exceed what we can actually afford.
That's correct. And this year, after years and years of austerity, we asked the town department heads and commission heads to come back with what they actually felt they needed. We knew we wouldn't be able to fund it. We told them that. And in fact, the initial requests came back at just under $1.4 million. Historically, we've been funding about 1 mil, which last year was less than 450,000. Right. We did increase to 1.25 mils last year. And this year we're increasing it again by about $10,000, the overall request, which we still anticipate will be about 1.25 mils. Since the grand list isn't finalized quite yet, we're not exactly sure, but from 1.4 million to just over 500,000, there's a lot of things being left on the table. So,
and let's go back even further. The process on the town side, I request from everybody, their capital items. School does the same thing through the superintendent, and then that comes to a committee that's called CAPA,
which I'm going to have to rely on you for what CAPA stands for.
Capital Acquisition and Purchasing and Allocation.
Wow. Capital Acquisition, Allocation, and Purchasing. I repeat it because maybe now I'll remember it. But it's a commission set by our charter.
Yes.
It's made up of 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of the Board of Finance, 2 members of the Board of Education, 1 member of the Board of Finance, and a member of the general public. This year, that committee consisted of myself, Deputy First Selectman Robert Mora, Andrew Broneal, who is the Vice Chair of the Board of Education, and Scott Rich, also a member of the Board of Education, Matt Malucci from the Board of Finance, and Richard Hayes was our member at large. So I want to thank all of those individuals for their process. It's not easy to sit there and look at all the needs and pick and choose, but I think we did come up with a responsible list. The commission, the CAPA, has come back with their recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, and as one of the final processes in the budget process, the Board of Selectmen will be accepting their list.
And that's part of it is at the meetings, going through the town needs, going through the school needs, and there's no need that isn't necessary. It's just a matter of when, how we can afford to do it, and at what point in time, and what makes the most sense. And that's the ongoing struggle. The Board of Ed only has 2 buildings, doesn't have many vehicles, but they have a lot of square footage in those buildings. Town, we have multitude of vehicles, because you're also talking about the fire department. You're talking about the roads. You're talking about our equipment, like fire trucks, which are rather expensive, as people know. And then we have all the buildings and all this property that we maintain. And I know that's one of the things that as we prepare our budget this year for the town side, we're going to try to come up with some of those statistics of how many acres we maintain and how much square footage, et cetera, because I'm not sure that the public is aware of what we really are responsible for and are trying to take care of in their interest.
That's exactly right. And as part of, this is a little bit off of Capitol, but I think it bears mentioning again, when we sat down with the highway foreman a couple of weeks ago to talk about his budget, he informed us that there were 101 roads in Bolton.
Right.
Who knew? I certainly, as first selectman, never focused on the fact that we have over 100 roads in Bolton. That's a lot of mileage. That's a lot of upkeep. That's a lot of sand and salt. But I think by quantifying exactly what it is that we take care of, it'll give people a better understanding of the costs behind that and also instill a sense of pride that it's part of our town.
And my personal thanks to our highway crew and buildings and grounds crew, as you know, I'm going to the office, driving out and about, going to meetings and other places. I will take Bolton's roads and sidewalks and getting in and out of town hall and the library any day over any other community around us. They do a superb job.
It's beyond superb. It's almost unbelievable. I too drive around the state a lot, and I never have any issues getting in or out of Bolton. And our state highway crew from the State Highway Garage also does a stellar job in keeping our roads safe for us. So, but let's get back to Capitol. There are a couple of things on our capital list this year that are annual contributions.
Yes.
Probably the oldest is the fire suppression water supply, where we put $50,000 aside to fund cisterns and water supply for our fire department. And this is valuable because anybody who could suffer a personal emergency or any town facility that has an emergency and needs water, this will allow tankers from not only our town but nearby towns to come up and add water. Our newest one is right here on Notch Road in front of the elementary school. That went into service last fall, and I don't know if it's been used yet, has it?
It was close to needing to be used, but they did not have to draw on it, luckily, but were prepared. But that 30,000 gallon tank, which is huge if you look at how big it is to put together, that cost us $155,000 to install, with all of the site work that needed to be done and planting of trees, etc. So at $50,000 a year, it takes a while to be able to build that level up as well.
That's true. But contrast that with perhaps a draw pipe that's put
Yes.
into a local pond, which is a lot less expensive. Unfortunately, near the center school and the Notch Road area, and we have not only the Notch Road Municipal Center, we have the building that CVC is located in, we have the elementary school, we have the town garage, we have the town parks garage, we have the school bus storage lot. So there's a lot of facilities and a lot of houses right here that weren't served by any local pond, if you will.
Our own fire department right down the road.
Right, of course. Of course. You never want to hear about a fire department burning, but it has happened, and I hope it doesn't happen ever to us.
But it does take considerable water potentially at a fire, and so it's key to have that resource in the center of town. Other items that are an annual contribution.
Fire truck replacement, we've been setting aside $50,000 a year. And road resurfacing, where we've been setting aside $40,000 a year. And that's in addition to road maintenance, which is in the highway budget, and any contribution from the town from the state under the
Town aid road.
Town Aid Road. Thank you.
And we should talk a little bit about the town's contribution in capital reserve It's at 40,000. That used to be close to 200,000. And we started reducing it on a yearly basis, trying to bring it down, hopefully to zero or near zero, and moving the funds into the operating budget. Key for many people is Bolton does not have a history of bonding for its roads. We've been trying to do all of that road work within budget rather than bonding. So that's a key point.
That is a key point. A lot of our neighboring towns don't fund their road resurfacing on an annual basis, but rather go out and bond that, which adds not only costs, but interest costs as well. So Bolton has been good at doing that.
And with all of our other things that we need to bond for, it would take away our ability to bond those projects.
Exactly. So
the fire truck, we have 130,000 now set away. In a few years from now, we will be facing another fire truck within the next 5 years, and that is estimated to cost 850,000. So anything that we can put away now will help lower that eventual cost to
correct.
The town.
And it's depending on the life of our vehicles, it's probable that we may have to bond some of that purchase price. But if we have a significant down payment through savings, it might be. One of the other things that we've done is to start putting away money for future replacements in addition to our annual contributions. On that list are a replacement for Service 134, which is the Suburban used by the fire department, the natural gas infrastructure, where we have a 7-year payment going on, a plow truck, which is anticipated to be about $180,000. This year we're proposing to set aside $65,000, and that would leave next year for $115,000 to complete that purchase. And I think that's the only things up. Oh, and partial demolition of the Notch Road Municipal Center.
It's hard to even imagine to be able to say it.
I know. But a future show will talk about the Notch Road Municipal Center and its condition, and but this is a partial contribution for that. And some things we hope to purchase are a new senior van. Our small senior van, I think it's a 6-passenger van,
yes,
is by far the most used. It's used for doctor's appointments and just when just a couple people need to travel. That is, again, our most used van, and we're hoping to replace that next year. Indian Notch Park and Road, last year we had a serious washout during the summer with the rains, caused closure of the park.
Right.
If we can do that Indian Notch Park Road this year, along with doing some other roads in the neighborhood, we save a significant amount of money, whereas if we do just those neighborhood roads or Indian Notch Park, the costs of both projects double. So we're hoping to do that this year. There's a low pro dump for the highway department. That's a replacement. And a plow with a 1-ton pickup with a plow and a lift gate, which is a replacement for buildings and grounds. So I think I've talked about, school security.
School.
I don't want you to think the school is left out here. There's a school security grant match of $45,000 that's in here. This Board of Education has applied for a grant from the state that will allow us to upgrade the school security system at both schools. So that brings our total, again, to about the $514,000 mark we're going to.
And, with that, the things listed, and you mentioned, the school, we actually are finishing up bond projects currently at the center school, so that one doesn't have much in it yet to of other projects to look at until we finish the bond projects. And the high school is still relatively new, so there's not many needs with the building there for sure. We are looking at the soccer field there, as well as Herrick Park and tennis courts, that those are ongoing things to be considered, but simply can't fund everything in 1 year.
True. Let's talk a little bit about some of the projects we left on the table
Yes.
from the capital improvement. Not to say these projects are not needed. They're just not prioritized as high priority at the moment. I really wish I had $1.4 million to spend.
Yes.
Realistically, that will never happen. So, but if there's somebody out there who'd like to give the town that amount of money, we will happily take it. Some of the things out there were the town hall parking lot paving, Herrick Park field lights, a soccer field at Herrick Park, overlaying the parking area at the town garage, restoration funds for matching grants at Heritage Farm, overlaying the parking lot at Notch Road Municipal Center, a paving box to replace the paving box that we currently have, Bolton Center School bleachers, the Bolton High School soccer field, and by the way, that's not in that $1.3 million number I've been talking about, a utility truck and plow for the high school, and a John Deere tractor replacement with bucket for the school system. The town does have some of this equipment that we could share with the school, so it's not that the school will be handicapped by not purchasing these vehicles, and we are looking for other ways to improve the Bolton Center School bleachers from other funds. And some of the other projects have been on the wish list for a long time, and they're going to remain there.
And some of them we have continued to postpone. We've tried to put away a little funding as time and monies become available. One of those being Herrick Park field lights. Those poles are the original poles from back in the late 70s, mid 70s. We've upgraded the lights once, but obviously they're not close to energy efficient. But the poles themselves are starting to show signs of wear. So that's the key thing with that one. It's a postponed need, but there's going to come a time when it can no longer be postponed. And on the other side of it, the energy efficiency will certainly pay off. The lights are not necessarily used that much, but when they are on, they're on for 3, 4, 5 hours a night, definitely. Soccer field at Herrick Park, that is actually soccer field, baseball fields. As you're driving down into Herrick, that sits on the opposite side from the playscape back in that area, was to develop more soccer fields and baseball fields for the community to be able to use. So that it's a need because we're always struggling with fields, and what's happening is our own fields are not recovering because we can't take play off of them.
That's correct. And if you'll know, even with your own backyard with a big party on a weekend, it takes your grass a little while to spring back and retain that look that you take such pride in. But our soccer fields don't have that ability. And the Bolton High School soccer field has not had any attention since the school was built originally, and it has lost its proper crowning from use. We had several weeks last year in the fall soccer season where the field was unplayable due to the wet nature. So that is going to be a big need.
Yes.
And we're very proud of our high school soccer team, both men and women, and would like to get that done. But as of now, it's still on the wish list.
And the town garage overlay, we should probably mention a bigger project going on as to why we need to do that. But I'll let you talk about that.
Thank you. Due to some, again, setting aside funds through the Local Capital Improvement Program, which is a grant from the state, the town of Bolton was able to order, and construction will start in spring on an addition to the town garage. This is going to replace the old brick garage, which is currently just used for storage. Now comes complete with leaky roof and falling bricks. But that will be removed, and a new metal town garage will be installed. And as a result of taking down that garage, which, by the way, was built by volunteers in the late 40s or early 50s, I'm not sure which, we will be having to overlay the town garage area because we'll be exposing some dirt and putting some building on top of some of the existing concrete.
And part of that project is it's an unheated space, so that's not, a concern with our bills for heating, but we actually struggle for an appropriate wash area, wash basin for the trucks. And that's so key to keeping them, as long as we do, each one of our plow trucks for eons before we replace them. So that's another key component of this project as well, which I know you agree with.
Without a doubt. Having the wash bay, and it's an environmentally friendly, as required by the state, wash bay. It'll be attached to this new area. It'll allow maintenance on the vehicles as needed. And I'm watching my own car deteriorate with the road chemicals that are out there. So I'm very glad that we have the ability now to wash those trucks and to do it in an environmentally friendly way.
And, some of the other things that didn't get funded, you had actually mentioned and talked about, but Bolton Heritage Farm Restoration, we're consistently looking for grant opportunities to do more work. In the last 3 years, 4 years, we've done tremendous amount of work there, but we're not done yet.
That is true. Unfortunately, some of the work we did was fire restoration, but as the result of that and some funds set aside by the town a couple years ago, we were able to paint the building, do some foundation repairs, do some internal structure repairs. So things are coming very, very slowly. The house was painted last year.
Front porch?
Front porch was replaced. Oh my gosh, how could I forget the front porch? And if you haven't stopped up to see that front porch, please do.
Yes.
Working with Country Carpenters, working with our Buildings and Grounds Department and the Heritage Farm Commission, did a fabulous restoration project. So now that front porch no longer needs to be roped off. We can, I wouldn't recommend taking a rocking chair and sitting there, but it can now be walked on again.
And, in talking about the capital projects, the process from here is the Board of Selectmen still has to adopt this. And the operating budget, the capital budget, and the debt budget all go from the Board of Selectmen to the Board of Finance for consideration. The Board of Finance's role with the capital is rather limited, though.
That's correct. They don't have the ability to say project A, B, C, or D comes out, but they rather have the ability to say the 514,000 you're requesting, and it's actually, I've been saying 514, 515. The total is actually 514,711. They have the ability to say that's too much. We're going to reduce that amount to whatever, and then it's back to the Board of Selectmen to decide what projects go forward and what projects don't.
And the budget process, the Board of Selectmen have had 2 budget workshops so far and have 2 or 3 more scheduled.
3
I
more
think it
scheduled.
depends on timing of when you're really ready to adopt. But again, the budgets are then due to the Board of Finance by March 15th by state statute. And then they'll start their workshops, which I certainly encourage the public to attend those. There'll be a public hearing on the budget in April. I encourage participation throughout the budget process.
And people are welcome at Board of Selectmen budget meetings as well, and the Board of Education also has budget meetings. Our next Board of Selectmen's budget meeting is a week from today.
Yes.
Our regular meeting is tonight on Tuesday, February 5th. But our next budget meeting is the 12th, and then we have another on the 19th. So there are opportunities there to come and listen, ask questions if you have them, hear about the details, because we meet with the major department heads to talk about their budgets. We've already met with Buildings and Grounds and Highway and Senior Services. We have Fire and Library coming up.
And those are by far the largest budgets that there are, as well as that have staffing. Employee benefits and refuse are 2 huge budgets, unfortunately, but certainly the selectmen have worked their way through, and there have been some requests for some new things, but 99% of the budget is maintenance. It's keeping things operating as is.
That's exactly true. And one of the things, as I mentioned earlier on, that we did request from our department's heads was, tell me what you really need. And if there's something that you think you need that you've been putting aside for a couple of years, let's talk about it. Some of those things probably won't happen.
Excuse me.
You okay, Joyce? And some of them may, because you can only put off things for so long, and they move from desired maintenance to we must fix it now. So
I'm sorry, I got that little tickle today.
that's usually my job, so I'm glad you have it today. So
We only have a couple minutes left. 2 minutes left. Closing thoughts about capital and where we go from here?
I think the Kappa group has come up with a workable solution for the town. I think we have considered in our 514, 711 total, some of the projects that are continuing set-asides, some things that will be replaced this year, and I thank the members of that committee again. I thank you, the residents of Bolton, for watching this program and becoming better informed. I urge you to attend the Board of Finance meetings when they talk about the budget, to attend the public meetings, and to mark the referendum date of May 22nd on your calendar.
Thank you, Sandy. Just a couple of closing items. As Sandy mentioned, the Board of Selectmen has their regular meeting this evening. I urge you to look at the town calendar and website to gather more information. The next show, Sandy will be back, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Bolton currently. As always, thank you to Community Voice Channel for its continued support, and I will see you in 2 weeks.